have the ones that already work with children and have had a good experience. We've had ones who work with children that have had an awful experience and never want to work with children ever again because it's kind of like one bad apple will ruin the whole bunch kind of effect. And then you have the ones that would love to work with children, they just are kind of unsure of how to incorporate worship for children within their temple. And with that, I would think the most important aspect to learn that we learned is not every occasion is child-friendly. So my best advice is try to work with children if it is your choice, because not every temple would prefer to work with children. But if you do, just remember there are some occasions that you probably shouldn't have children involved. And then, so I think I have like the ability to lead this type of workshop because I have worked with children for many years, and we formed the Children Are the Future Formal Shrine, which is a formal shrine that's dedicated to giving resources to all the temples and all of the pagan parents within our tradition, but as a pagan community throughout the whole world, and we hope to, so everyone in the tradition who wants to work with children can, because I've had many temple heads, contact me and say, well, how can I do this, or what can I do, what should I do? They just don't have the adequate resources to do it. I don't even remember where I'm at. Sorry, everyone. And so I personally believe most of the time children should be welcome, but there are always obstacles to that. There might not be enough volunteers to work with the children, because when you work with children, you do have to have extra volunteers to work with them, or even some prefer not to. They don't have much experience with children themselves, so they feel uncomfortable to do it. In my temple, we have a dual aspect. We teach our teenagers at the same time as our children, the younger children. And by children, I mean middle school and lower. After that, I'm counting the teenagers. Even though they're not adults, I'm counting them more towards the outer court or the clergy, because at this point, most of them are already studying under the degree program. So I'm not counting them as children because they have a lot more developmental, they're good. So we have our teenagers lead the younger children. They do rituals, they do other activities. So the teenagers are gaining ritual leadership at the same time as the younger children are learning just general things. They're taking nature walks, or they're learning about an element one week, something about the moons the next. We don't have a set structure where we have a workbook and they work on through it. We don't actually have that. We just kind of, we lead where they want to go. We ask them what they want to learn next, and the children decide on what they're being taught.
Question. When you talk about the children, are the parents there too?
Yes, we have, especially for our normal rituals, some of them can lead on too long, and a young child could probably sit still and enjoy a short ritual, but longer ritual, they might start to get antsy, bored, they might start to be disruptive. So we have a separate children's activity area, and that's where the children go. We call it my temple's the Enchanted Mystery. So the children's section is the Land of Enchantment. And they're over there, it's a whole separate area, so you couldn't hear from the ritual area to the children's activity. So even if the children were yelling and screaming, you can't hear it, so they're totally separate. We have two workers in the children's activity. We have an adult and a teenager, and that's one important aspect to always do. Never be alone with a child that's not yours. Just for your safety and the safety of the child. I'm not calling anyone child abusers or anything like that. It's just a safety issue. And I think just about every children's organization, from Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, all of them, have the same philosophy. You always want to have at least two. And I do say at least two because if you all of a sudden you have a large group, you got to have a good adult to child ratio, and that basically just depends on the activity You just don't want, you know,
Number
you know,
one.
you don't want 2 adults and 15 screaming 8-year-olds. It doesn't work out too well. I've tried it before at a Girl Scout meeting. It was not fun. So we have a separate area, and we give the parents the choice. Before every ritual, we tell them about how long it will be, whether it's a ritual that's going to have a lot of dance, a lot of music, a lot of movement, because young children tend to be better in ritual when there's dancing and when there's chanting. When they're moving, they tend to be better. If it's a somber ritual where everyone's just doing the normal thing, they might start to be disruptive. So each parent has the choice to have the children start in the children's area or be with them. But we also, as I said, we have 2 workers with the children, but we also have another worker within the ritual space who the parents can then, if they start to not act totally appropriate to the situation, they can either take the children themselves to the children area, take their children outside to talk to them themselves, or the other worker will take their child for them. At this point, you know, no one's a stranger to these children. You know, everyone knows everyone. We're in the temple setting. You know, at first, when you're a new member, you know, you might not, to your child, this is a stranger. You don't want to be walking a while with a stranger, but after a while, it's like your auntie or your uncle taking you to next door. So we have, you know, basically it's my friend who's my neighbor is also in my temple. So all our temple activities are in my yard or my backyard or in my house. The children's activity area is in my neighbor's house, which works out great. I was really happy when she joined the temple and we could do that. Because before, we did have the separate areas, but, you know, you could still hear them, so that kind of defeated the purpose of the separate areas, because if you can still hear them running around, there is no point. So we enjoy that, and I find that the teenagers have learned a lot, that they gain the ritual experience, and even the younger ones start to, because I don't know if anyone's seen any of the skit video type videos that my youngest daughter started to produce. She started to do those on her own. She enjoys making them. In fact, she's right now working on a proposal to do one like a Pagan kids, 4 kids, that she's going to call on somebody's suggestion here, I cannot remember who, I'm very sorry, but we're going to call it the playground. And she wants to send that to Reverend Don so he can put that on Magic TV so everyone can see it. So even the younger children do gain more ritual experience when they're doing. So you can just, as they grow up, they learn from all the others, just like we do. We learn from each other. And of course, we still learn from the children. Every day they teach me something new. And so you can have like a structured versus like an unstructured program. You can have, or activities. It could be as simple as throwing some coloring pages down and some crayons, you know, or it could be a set activity where we're going to do this, we're going to learn about this, we're going to learn about that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I think we just have to learn, but for the younger, like really young children, like 2 and below, we have babysitting. So that's, I think a lot of parents don't understand. There's a difference between worshiping, children's worship program, and babysitting. Babysitting is when you're just watching the child because their parents are busy. And no one wants to be a babysitter for free. You think, well, if you just want a babysitter, you know, get your own babysitter. Just come to yourself. I don't want to tell any parents in my temple because I think all but 2 members of my temple all have children. And some of them are fairly young. And I've had, my one friend, Matt, has a 7-month-old, and she has no support up here. She just moved recently to the Buffalo area, so she doesn't really know anyone. She doesn't trust anyone with her children, but she found the temple online and she wants to participate. I don't want to say, well, I'm sorry, you have a young child and we're not babysitters, so I don't know what to tell you. We have lots of teenagers in our area that love to babysit and could use a couple extra dollars every week. Well, if needed, I have one of my daughter's friends who's not pagan but likes extra money, offers to babysit anyone that we want. and she has all the Red Cross babysitting classes and all of that. So we were like, why not? We'll do babysitting. So it's not always, doesn't have to be a structured class. You don't have to sit there for 15 hours each week writing a big degree book for children. None of us are Lord Don, and I don't think I could ever write any of those Correllian degree books, so there will be no Correllian first degree for kids from me. And so I want to go to like the safety features. So you got first aid and CPR. I don't think this should be just for working with children. I think every temple should have a first aid and CPR officer. We're lucky that we have 3 members that are in the medical profession. So we're pretty much overkill at our temple. I have the CPR for the pediatrics, as well as the professional rescuer, as well as the wilderness first aid. So I'm a registered nurse in the real world. So I think first aid wise, I think the temple is totally good. And I have another EMT, and one that's in med school right now. So I think, but every temple or shrine should have one. It's very important. You never know how long medical attention will take to get you. Some of these things that you learn in the CPR and the first aid class could save a life. They're not very expensive or even time consuming. You can go to the American Heart Association and the American Red Cross. And nowadays they even have online classes that many different institutions offer. And even though they're online, you take them online and there's no in-person class, they are all still accredited. For the most part, you should definitely check and make sure. But for the most part, last time I did my certification for my basic life safety skills, I didn't have time to take the in-person Red Cross class, so I actually went and took an online class, and I did learn new stuff, and I learned everything that I would have learned in the in-person class. There is no difference of what you learned. The only difference is whether you have hands-on with an instructor before you. And most of us all took school classes, so we're very familiar with online learning. And did you find online learning just as well as in-person learning? Okay, a very important issue is liability, especially if you have your temple within your house. Now, for the most part, a lot of homeowners insurances do offer like personal liability, or if things happen within your house, it's often covered by your homeowner's insurance. But I enjoy the extra aspect that my homeowner's insurance gives me, personal liability, because liability is very important. You always have to protect your own. You gotta protect your butt. Always protect yourself. Now, working within a temple and doing activities can be expensive. It can be cheap. It's how you do it. I run mine like I used to run my Girl Scout troop. That's what dues is for. I find that parents can pay $3 each time they come, and $3 could buy plenty of crayons, coloring books, or anything they needed. And if not, I have me personally, I have a fully stocked craft room. That one thing that I've seen on the internet that my husband said I can only fit my craft supplies into a box, and it's like, stop calling my house a box. So I am good with this. Record keeping, especially with children, is harder, especially if you're doing it online, because you have like the Child Protection Safety Act that involves children under 13 and the collection of their data, which can be very confusing. And I personally researched it myself, and if you're going to do anything online with children, I would definitely recommend reading that. And hopefully you can read legalese, because some parts are pretty dry and boring. But it just goes, common sense. What are you collecting? Why are you collecting it? Who can share it? And we recently got our 501c, because my uncle's a lawyer and I made him help me. And along with helping me with the 501c, he helped me create all these nice legal documents. that are on the Correllian Temple group. If anyone has a temple and wants to use them, feel free to find them on the temple group and use them. And I have, my one member said it's like joining the military all over again, the amount of forms I make everyone sign. But I would like to point out, I only make them sign one of each form, not 3 of each form. So it's not the military. So we have a special form. If you are an adult and your children are in the temple, I'm not making you fill out a membership form for your children. That's quite different. But now if you're a teenager and your parents are not in the temple, that's quite different. I know many people that refuse absolutely to teach children under 18 because, and it's still in the books, the most recent law involving children is a 1920s law through the Supreme Court that says that a parent has absolute rights over their children's religion until their 18th birthday. So it doesn't matter if 16-year-old Susie wants to be pagan, if their mom says you're Christian, until their 18th birthday, they're Christian. And if you teach them without their mother's permission, I hope you like jail or lawyer fees because you have custodial interference and many other laws that you just don't want to deal with. So I have a special form for any teenage member. If you're a teenager and you want to join my temple, I'm more than happy to have you join. I'm more than happy for you to learn. But I have to speak to your parents, and your parents have to understand that this is a Wiccan church, and this is what we teach, and here's this form, and here's my membership handbook, and here's all this. You have to do this, this, this. You have to come to 8 Sabbath. You have to come to at least half of them. There's 8 Sabbaths. You have to come to at least, your child has to come to at least 4 to remain a member. They have to do 10 community service hours a year. You know, I have it all outlined in a handbook. This is what you do if you want to be a member. Is it okay for your child to be a member? Here, sign this form. So when they change their mind and they're like, this really crazy lady, she's teaching my children about witchcraft. Yeah. Excuse me, officer, the lady said I could. And then, liability release forms. Well, I'm sure it's not going to be 100% of, nothing's ever happened, thank God, in the house. Let me get some over here. Nothing's ever happened at a temple event, but things happen and it's possible something could happen. And I'm sure, someone told me once that no liability form is worth the paper that it's written on, but it sure does help. It's better than nothing. I have a form for both children and adults. My form says and it is my responsibility as a temple head to make sure the area is safe. First of all, it's safe, but it's also the member's responsibility to also make sure the area is safe. And if your children are there, it's your responsibility to make sure it's safe for your child. If I go somewhere, if I take my children to a public event, I check around to make sure it's safe for my children, and if it's not, they're not participating. So basically, it's everyone's responsibility to make sure no one comes to any harm. But if the worst case happens, I don't need to be sued for thousands of dollars that I do not have. So those type of forms. And then I think the most important one, and I also have minor and adults if anyone does want to use them, is the photo release. Can you take my photo? Yes, no? In what situations can you use my photo or video? I have a lot of members who don't mind videos. You can post them on Facebook just throw them on out there. They don't care. I have ones that say, well, just blur my face. I'm still in the broom closet a little. I have ones that say, you can take photos of my children. I don't care. I have the ones that say, well, take photos, but could you only keep them within the temple so, we can share, but we don't want the whole world to know. So those are important for both the children and adults, I would say, because I think that's one of the, especially because we are so open and we take so many videos and so many pictures and we're all up on the internet so much, that it's important to know in what situations we should, take pictures and things. And then I have 2 more. Let's see, I have I have the data, as we were talking about, the data collection and sharing. I basically say, the only thing I collect is your child's name, their email, and maybe their address, so I can have a members database. I need to know who the members are, or there's no actual point. And I will tell them, only I and the Correllian tradition as a whole will have this information, because I have a mother. I'm the daughter temple, that's the mother temple, they need the information. And then I have the minor contact, when we have special events or anything like that. How do I tell the teenage members that we're having an event? Am I allowed to text them and tell them? Because 95% of all teenagers now have telephones, and a quick text message to everyone wouldn't hurt. Or do you want me to send something in the mail? Do you want me to call you and you can tell the child? As a child to the parents, as I said before, the parent has absolute right of their children's religious choices until they're 18. So whatever the parent says, that's what I do, because it's their right, it's not my right. So we just go with it. And I lost my place.
Start from the beginning.
Oh, thank you, forgot one. Okay, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We were talking about children and adult ratios. This is my favorite book when it comes to that. I was a Girl Scout leader for 10 years until the troop started to gradually go from 15 girls to 2 girls to just my daughter. And at that point, it's not a Girl Scout troop anymore. There's no point. But it's called Safety Wise, and there's other books like that. And the Girl Scouts went through and basically said, for swimming, you should have this many adults to this many children. For hiking, you should have this. This is the first aid kit. They tell you what you should bring. It gives you lots of good safety advice. And so I think if you're going to work and do activities with children, it's a very good book to own, because there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's already good resources out there already done. So take your time and do something else with it. I never did find my place. I just saw the book, so I thought I would just throw it in.
Do you do the Spiral Scouts?
I actually, I had a couple families in my temple that had a bad experience with it, so they don't want to do it. And I've tried to do the Spiral Scouts. It's just impossible, I think, in my area to get it started. I try to get it started. They just, for some reason, they all online, they're all talking about it, like, yeah, let's do it, let's get it done. So you have an informational meeting, and one person shows up, and you're like, oh. So I would love to do Spiral Scouts, but that goes with the whole, just like the whole Girl Scout troop. There's no one in it with me, so it's impossible to do by myself. I did I can't remember what it's called. I signed up for the family membership by itself, hoping that someone would come join with me. But I think I had one temple member say that they didn't need the Spiral Scouts because I basically do everything the Spiral Scouts would have done anyways. I was like, because you can't get any of the material from the Spiral Scouts until you're a Spiral Scout. So I wanted the extra material to work with, but no one's interested. So yeah, we're gonna go on a really important topic. Does anyone know, everyone knows that there's different laws through the states about the mandated reporting of child abuse.
Yeah.
Does anyone know the Correllian tradition's view on clergy reporting?
Always.
For everyone. That can be quite hard. What is child abuse? Do you know what child abuse is?
Discipline and child abuse.
Is it just child abuse is not just physical abuse. There's lots of forms of child abuse. You have emotional abuse, bullying a child, telling them they're stupid. You can't do it, you're just stupid. That is child abuse. But you see that often Emotional abuse is, people don't often realize that it's abuse and it should be reported. And that will, for the most part, will affect a child their whole life. It's hard to be a clergy member and report child abuse if you don't exactly know what child abuse is. It's not just hitting a child. Me and Phoenix are currently writing a class about child abuse that we hope to have hope to talk Lord Don and Lady Steph into making it mandatory for all clergy members. Because if we're reporting 100%, we have to know what to report. And I find that I had someone go to me, well, I think I've seen something that I should report, but I'm not sure. And always, when you're talking about child abuse, err on the side of caution. It's better to report something that wasn't or didn't meet the requirements than for a child to be abused for no reason other than you were scared to report. Now, most states do the anonymous reporting. I find that awful. I hate anonymous reporting 100% because even if you give your name to the agency that you're reporting child abuse to, they still do not tell the suspected abuser your name. So you could give them your name, you could give your address, you could give them your contact information, and the person that you reported will not give that information. And I find it's important to give the information to the reporting agency because what happens if they have a follow-up question? If you just say, I've seen this and this and this and hang up, it's over. If the worker that's investigating it has more questions, if you give them the contact information, they can contact you and you can say, well, on December 4th, I was here and I seen this. It might be, that's a lot better. So I did, let's see. Now, one of the new forms is sexual abuse. I had, no names obviously, a temple member, a teenage member, come to me for guidance because they were being sexually abused, or suspected because nothing's confirmed. It's not our duties to judge or to investigate. It's our duties to report it to the agency who will do this. And she said that she went to other people about this, and she tried to go to that, and no one would listen to her. Well, it's my job to listen to her and to follow up. I didn't name any names or do anything. I just called the New York State hotline and said, I'm the temple head of a church in Buffalo. I've had a 17-year-old member come to me, and she told me this. Then that agency talked to her. I was kind of the middleman. She had a problem, but she didn't know what to do, so she obviously came to me. If someone comes to you, it's not your job to believe or disbelieve them. Just report it. If they're telling you that it's happened, for your purposes, it happened. It's just that simple. I know others, some people that say, oh, but they're good people. They're good people. I don't think this could happen. I think this girl is lying. It's not your responsibility to say whether the person is lying or not. Just report. As I said, if someone called CPS on me because they thought my children were abused, I wouldn't be mad at them. I'd be happy because to me that means they're trying to protect my children. That's good enough for me. It's not about me. It's not about my ego. It's about my children. And I think one of the most important aspects, especially if you see child abuse, like if you literally see it, which has happened to me at an event, a child was being disruptive, and when a person went to the parent and said, look, your child's being disruptive, you need to take them out of the circle, the lady reached up and slapped him as hard as she could upside the head and told him that told the child that he was embarrassing her. And he flew halfway across the circle. I was like, excuse me, can you cut a hole in the circle? I have to go call the police. It's not our job if you see child abuse, it's not your job to snatch the child and run. You might want to, and you might feel you have to, but you can get in a lot of trouble for that. Especially if they're leaving the area. Basically what you want to do is note the appearance, know what color clothes they're wearing, license plate number, they're traveling westward, if they're in immediate danger, don't wait and call CPS. And call 911 or your emergency number and report it right away. Just tell them all the information you've seen, and tell them if they did leave the area, tell them how they left the area. They're traveling in a car westbound. This is the license plate number. She slapped a child so hard that he flew 20 feet in the air. In that situation, she didn't leave the area because she didn't actually even realize she was abusing the child. She thought it was disciplining him. So I think, that's what I said, discipline's a smack in the bottom, not a slap upside the head that makes you fly across the room. So I've had lots of clergy members say, well, if I'm supposed to report child abuse, how do I report it? I don't know my state number, should I look it up? Or, I think it's child abuse, what happens if it's not? I don't want to get this family in trouble. In the United States and Canada, they have this really good number. It's not an actual reporting hotline, but it is a child abuse hotline. It's 1-800-KIDS-HELP. And they have professional guidance counselors on the line 24 hours a day that will guide you through the process. So you could tell them, well, I think I've seen child abuse. I've seen this and this. What should I do? They will take you step by step through the process of what you should do, which I find very helpful for those who have no idea. And you know, it happens very often that no one has any ideas. I think I already did that one. And I already talked about the children in the future. Okay, so what the children in the future are still working on, we already went a little bit, we're doing the clergy, the child abuse class. Who would like to see that? Actually, we don't want to write it for no apparent reason. Do you think that is a good class to have for clergy members, first of all?
Definitely. I spent 19 years in BSA, and for the last 9 years of that, I was the coordinator for the youth protection, and I taught leaders youth protection. So not just for those who do have children, but for those who don't have children, because you're not aware that you took Johnny out of the room to go to the bathroom or something. It wouldn't occur to you that that would be a bad thing, where that's one leader, one child. You never do that. So for those who don't even have children, who are in a circle with children or in a temple with children, I think it should be mandatory for everybody, because you don't know what you don't think, and that's especially women. We run on instinct. We see a child hurt, we run. We see a child being abused, we run. We don't think where a man might. We don't stop there because we just run on that emotion. And it's very important, especially for those who have not been through this training. Older generation, younger generation, and we're not used to it. I think everybody should be required. And it doesn't have to be long. The one for BSA is, the short one is 35 minutes, the long one is 90.
Yeah, I recommend that one too.
Yeah, the 90-minute one is very, very good because it explains size difference when you're dealing with children and how the abuse, because he's the bigger kid, you yell at him because he should know better than the little kid. You find out the bigger kid's 4 years younger than a little kid. You know, so it covers all forms of any kind of youth protection. But I think it's mandatory. I really do believe that. Because it is mandatory in BSA. Yeah, we got little cards that say, in fact, we started this 2006.
Washington, or Virginia.
No, well, that's the one I did.
I did that one.
I did that one down there, but I mean, we're doing intensives in New York. And actually,
I was there too.
I did the intensive on youth protection there.
I think I was there too, but I was also in Virginia.
Yeah.
That was the last
I did
station I went. Okay, don't worry everyone, I promise it won't be another 10 years before I
Oh,
go to another
me too.
one.
That was the last one I went, but yeah, well, I co-chaired that, and we had the youth protection, and I was really strong on that, because we did have a lot of children there, and we had parents who, people who didn't have kids.
I think it's especially hard for the ones who don't have kids, because you have kids, you just kind of know more because you have the kids, so you want to protect your kids so much that and then when you don't have kids, you're like, oh, I never even thought that would be a bad thing.
Right.
And then, so we're working on that class, me and Phoenix, and then we're gonna continue doing the credit and activity pages. We have a whole bunch done that are ready to start going up after illustration next week. And then we're started Reiki for Children class. I love, my youngest daughter did that one. I did that one by herself. She was my tester. She loves it and hates it. The younger one is always my tester for everything. But she enjoys it, so it counts. She's not being forced. It just happened. I'm like, you want to do a video? She's like, yeah, let's go. And then we're gonna do a newsletter for every Sabbath, with activities and things like that you can do on a temple level or a parent level, because that's what we want to do more, have more resources, especially within our tradition. Anyone have any questions or anything?
What do you do for your temple member that is in the house next door?
Oh.
When she wants to,
A lot of churches that do that, they don't like to rotate. They say that it affects the children, but if you have, in the philosophy that it doesn't. So we have for 3 months, these are the 3 volunteers, and then the next 3 months, these are the 3 volunteers, so we rotate. Except, unfortunately, I have not taken my turn, but any children's activities that's not part of the regular activity, I've been a part of every single one of those. But at the ones that are at the rituals, I have never taken my turn. I'm exempt. I'm sorry, I have to be at the ritual because most of the ritual involves me, so it just doesn't work. Except my oldest daughter, she has gone and done. She's a permanent volunteer, so we only have to worry about the one adult volunteer that helps her. She did the degree programs. I doubt she's going to stay pagan for the rest of her life. I'm pretty sure she's in it to work with small children, and only that reason. She wants to do, next year she starts early childhood education at BOCES, and that's what she plans to go through college too. And I told her, well, if you want to work with the small children, you have to know what you're talking about, so you have to do the degrees to work with the children. I'm sorry, but that's how it is. And she's like, oh, okay, I guess so. My youngest, I'm pretty sure she'll be the head of the temple one day because, she enjoys it, I think, sometimes more than I do. When we want to do things, like she'll bring us the workbooks right out. I'm like trying to play Minecraft. It's not Minecraft, it's Minecraft. I'm like playing Minecraft, and she'll be like, I got my little book of everything, because I got that from author at our local Pagan Pride. She had this little binder that says it's my little book of everything, so it's like a children's book of shadows. And she'd be like, okay, I got my little book of everything, let's work on it. I'm like, but I'm playing. Leave me alone, I'm relaxing. It just doesn't work like that. So I'm pretty sure one day she'll be the head of the temple. The way she's going, she'll probably have Lady Steph's job. So any other questions?
I found, because we have a lot of children in our parents in Mexico, varying from 16 to 6 years old. And I found this book, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, and I think it was like Witchcraft for Families, and it has the elementary schools used to have like the Christmas pageant and things like that, but it actually has a Yule play.
I actually have some scripts for that. I will make sure to include them online because we did a Yule play and we did some other ones. I make the teenagers write the scripts for all the rituals that the kids do because, as I said, those teenagers have to get the ritual experience. So they write all the scripts. In fact, even sometimes the children one, I don't know if anyone's seen the peace prayer ritual that the children of our future did. Rachel decided she was going to do that, but she wanted a little practice because that was going to be her first by herself ritual that she was doing, that I wasn't supposed to say anything and she was just supposed to do it all by herself. So she wanted practice. So that's how the skit came involved. That's the one where she had all of my ritual gear on, and my daughter's older friend was the little child who kept interrupting her during the circle. I don't know if anyone's seen that, but Yeah, she needed to practice, and she couldn't say the words. Some of the words were all wrong. It was great. That's I find like that's one of my most favorite videos that we did. It was all her. She screwed up, but she owned what she screwed up, and she enjoyed doing it. Because that's, I think, one of the most important aspects, which is right now everyone knows that my 2 children are down here, but does anyone see them?
What'd you do?
I sent them to the zoo.
As a main attraction?
Unfortunately, my husband doesn't drive highways, which means me and Phoenix had a nice drive from Buffalo down to here. He drove a little bit through one straightaway, but he doesn't do highways because the other cars make him nervous. He says other people can't drive, so he don't want to drive either. He can't be responsible if he's not behind the wheel. So I took them to the zoo. Unfortunately, I have to go pick them up again. I can't just leave them there. But so I think the most important aspect when working with children at an event is whether the children want to be there. My children are happy to go to the investiture, especially because it's an event that hasn't happened in 37 years, and they probably won't see another one for a long, long, long time. Or they're happy to go to the illustration because they've never been one. But they sure in the heck don't want to sit here in this chair and listen to all of us talk.
Especially mom.
Especially mom. Because God forbid mom is never right. I might have a nursing degree and my daughter might ask me for medical advice. But when I give her medical advice that I have a cold, what should I do? Drink water. I don't like water. So even when it's not mom type advice, it's medical advice and you're asking a medical professional. If it's mom who's the professional, it's your advice doesn't mean anything. So yeah, that's the most important aspect. Do the children want to be there? If the children do not want to be there, there's no point of forcing the children. Otherwise, 15 years from now, how many of them, like my mom, how many people right here, their mothers or fathers forced them into church as they were teenagers, and you actually hated church, and you still talk about the crappy experience you had at church. 15 years from now, your children are going to be like, my mom made me go to the illustration, she made me do this, and she made me do that, it was awful, I need Jesus. It's going to happen. 15 years from now, it's going to be the opposite. I love that line. Everyone could use it. It was the best one. 15 years. So remember that. If you don't want your children going up to other people in 15 years going, they forced me to those pagan events, I want Jesus. So just give them Jesus and give them the goddess and the God and just give them everything. And it's their path in life. Let them choose. But as I said, when someone said, well, all right, I'm not brainwashing my children. I'm not making them choose. I'm just giving them an option. You might say, oh, I'm letting my children choose for themselves. Well, it's really hard to choose from nothing. So you have to give them things to choose from.